Have you ever felt someone on your mind so deeply it almost scared you? Not a crush, not a habit, but a quiet pull that shows up when the world goes silent. The kind of connection that makes random moments feel heavy, like they mean something more. Tonight, I want you to listen closely because what you're feeling is not imagination and it's not coincidence. When two hearts think about each other at the same time, the universe leaves clues, subtle ones, powerful ones, and most people ignore them. But if you've been seeing signs you can't explain, feeling emotions you didn't ask for, or sensing someone without hearing their name, this message is for you. Stay until the very end because the last truth might change how you see love forever. Comment your location where you're watching from, subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching truths. When two people are thinking about each other deeply, the first place it shows up is not in words, but in emotional alignment. You wake up feeling unusually light or unexpectedly heavy, and you don't know why. Nothing happened. No message arrived, yet your emotional state has shifted. Psychology explains this through emotional attunement, the brain's ability to synchronize with someone it has formed a meaningful bond with. Over time, your nervous system learns the emotional rhythms of the other person. Their stress, calm, joy, or longing subtly echoes inside you, even across distance. This is not mysticism. It is pattern recognition at a deeply human level. When someone becomes emotionally significant, your brain allocates more cognitive resources to them. You begin to predict their moods, sense changes in energy, and feel emotional reactions that seem unprovoked. Philosophers would say this is where connection moves from attachment to intersubjectivity. Two inner worlds quietly influencing one another without conscious effort. You are no longer just reacting to life, you are reacting to life as it relates to them. What makes this especially powerful is that it works both ways. When emotional synchronization is mutual, both people experience it as a kind of internal signal. You feel restless at the same time, calm at the same time, nostalgic at the same time. These shared emotional waves are not created by chance, but by repeated moments of presence, vulnerability, and psychological safety. The brain remembers what felt meaningful, and it keeps that channel open. This is why deeply connected people often say, "I felt something was wrong," or "I knew you were thinking about me." Their minds have practiced emotional awareness with each other long enough that it becomes automatic. Neuroscience calls this co-regulation, the ability of one person's emotional state to influence another's. Love psychology takes it further and shows that when co-regulation becomes internalized, you don't need proximity anymore. The connection travels with you. Many people dismiss this as overthinking, but the truth is, shallow connections don't create emotional echoes. Only bonds built on attention, emotional honesty, and meaning do that. When someone occupies a serious place in your internal world, your emotions will respond to them before your logic catches up. That is not weakness, that is depth. And here is the critical insight. Emotional synchronization is not proof of destiny, but it is evidence of significance. It tells you that something real has been built at the psychological level. What you do with that awareness matters. You can ignore it, suppress it, or use it as information to communicate better, to reflect honestly, or to understand what this connection is asking of you. Because when two minds begin to feel each other without speaking, the question is no longer whether the connection exists. The question is whether you are brave enough to respond to it consciously. There is a moment that feels almost ordinary, yet it carries surprising weight. The sudden urge to reach out to someone without a clear reason. You're not lonely. You're not bored. You're simply pulled. Psychology calls this cognitive salience, the mind's tendency to prioritize what matters most. When a person holds a central position in your inner world, your brain keeps returning to them, not as a distraction, but as a point of relevance. That relevance quietly pushes you toward connection. What makes this phenomenon powerful is when it becomes mutual. You think about them and your phone lights up. Or you reach out only to hear, "I was just thinking about you." These moments are often brushed off as coincidence, But coincidence doesn't explain consistency. Philosophically speaking, shared attention creates a shared mental space. When two people repeatedly meet each other there, through conversation, vulnerability, and emotional presence, the mind begins to treat that connection as ongoing, even in silence. From a psychological perspective, this happens because the brain is predictive. It doesn't just respond to reality, it anticipates it. When someone becomes emotionally significant, your brain expects interaction with them. So when there's a gap, it generates an impulse to restore balance. That impulse shows up as a thought, a feeling, or a sudden need to connect. When both people experience this pattern, it suggests a loop of mutual awareness. Each person has become a reference point for the other's emotional and mental state. This is why spontaneous communication often carries more meaning than planned conversations. It bypasses performance and intention. There's no strategy involved, no timing calculated. It's raw mental alignment. You didn't decide to miss them. Your mind simply noticed their absence. And when that same absence is noticed on both sides, it reveals a deeper psychological truth. Attention has been exchanged and retained. Love psychology tells us that attraction fades when attention is one-sided. But when attention circulates, when both people feel drawn back to each other without effort, it indicates emotional reciprocity, not obligation, not habit, choice happening subconsciously. The mind does not chase what it does not value. Reaching out is evidence of perceived meaning. At a philosophical level, this is where connection becomes intentional even before it becomes conscious. You are responding to someone not because you need them, but because your inner life recognizes them as relevant to your sense of self. That's why these urges feel calm, not anxious. They don't beg for response, they invite presence. But here's where awareness becomes responsibility. Mutual mental pull is not a guarantee of outcome. It's information. It tells you something exists that deserves clarity, honesty, and direction. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear, it only makes it louder in silence. So the question is not why you keep thinking about them. The question is what you are going to do with the fact that they are thinking about you too. Because when two minds keep reaching for each other without planning to, the next move should never be unconscious. There are moments when something seemingly ordinary, a song on the radio, a scent in the air, even a passing phrase, suddenly brings someone vividly to your mind. It feels disproportionate, almost as if your heart is reminding your brain that they exist. This is not random. Psychology explains this through emotional memory. When an experience or a person becomes deeply meaningful, the brain stores not only the factual details, but also the emotional weight attached to them. The stronger the emotional imprint, the easier it is for subtle triggers to bring them back into focus, often unbidden and immediate. When this happens in a shared context, when both people experience these unprompted, emotional recalls, it signals a profound connection. Love psychology calls this emotional encoding. It's more than attraction, it's a subconscious recognition that the other person matters deeply. You may laugh at a memory you weren't consciously aware you remembered, or feel a pang of longing when a familiar scent appears. These are the brain's way of saying that a meaningful attachment exists at a level beyond your deliberate awareness. Philosophically, this points to the idea that human connection is not just constructed through words or actions, but through resonance. Experiences become shared internally before they manifest externally. When two people feel these triggers in tandem, even when apart, it suggests that their emotional worlds are quietly intertwined. You are not merely remembering, you are echoing. The person has become part of the architecture of your mind. These small, seemingly random reactions also carry predictive power. They show where attention and care have been unconsciously invested. The intensity of these reactions is often proportional to the depth of the bond. A song that once passed unnoticed now evokes longing. A familiar place suddenly feels weighted with significance. And if this is mirrored in the other person, it confirms that the emotional resonance is mutual. The subconscious is speaking a language that words cannot yet capture, and both minds are fluent. It's important to recognize the implication. These reactions are not signs of obsession, nor are they illusions of the mind. They are markers of emotional presence, evidence that a deep psychological imprint exists on both sides. Ignoring them is possible, but doing so dismisses the information your own mind is giving you. Ultimately, these emotional triggers are calls to awareness. They invite you to reflect on what this connection truly means, the depth of your response, the intensity of the feeling, and the mutuality of the experience point to a psychological truth. There is more here than casual interaction or fleeting attraction. So when you feel that sudden pang, that inexplicable longing, or that surge of memory, pay attention. Because in those moments, your mind is revealing the invisible threads that tie you to another. And the question is not whether it is real, but whether you are ready to honor it consciously. These echoes of memory are not coincidences. They are signs that love has quietly taken root, even before words are spoken.